Hello, and welcome to my acrylic painting process, part 2. In part 1, we learned how to tone the canvas, how to do a value drawing, light to dark, how to paint a value underpainting, which is what this is right here. It's on a toned canvas with a value underpainting. So in part 2, we are going to learn how to mix our colors from a limited palette, paint a sky color from 2 blues and white, paint grasses and trees from 2 blues and 2 yellows, and to apply the final details. We'll see how far we can get in this video. And if you have not been here before, my name is Barbie Mathis with Barbie Mathis Art. Please like and subscribe. Thanks. Okay, so to get started, since this is primarily for beginners, this is a color wheel. And as you can see, if you mix this yellow and this blue and this red, it's going to come out with different colors than if you had a different yellow and a different red and a different blue. So what I like to do is use a primary, double primary palette with 2 yellows, 2 reds, and 2 blues. And then I have a few additional colors that I like to use, but I'll go over that in just a few minutes. I also, in acrylic painting, use white and sometimes black, but I often mix my own darks, so I'll go over that. So to begin with, for my sky colors, this is a basic sky that I'm doing, and let's see. I was working from this particular photograph. So in this photograph, it was a little bit too dark down here. At this photograph, the grasses were just right, but the sky was a little bit lighter. So it's all according to your preference of what you like, about what color you want to do the sky. But to do an easy sky, to simplify it a bit, I like to use white, phthalo blue, and ultramarine blue for a blue sky sunny day. Also, we can stick in a few other colors to tone the clouds if we don't want just a white cloud sky. And so here, I'm going to try to put this in so that we can see a little bit of this sky in this video, so you'll get the idea of what we're doing here. So to begin with, these are my brushes. I use different brushes all of the time, it seems like, but I really like filbert brushes, which are these brushes that are flat, but they have a rounded edge. Sometimes I cut my brushes, inexpensive brushes, to do that. I like flat brushes also. And here's another flat brush. These are a little bit stiffer of a synthetic boar hair brush. And then also a good liner brush is helpful, especially for a smaller painting like I'm doing right now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and mix up some blue for my sky. And I like to use a Masterson Stay Wet palette. And as you can see, this is how I have laid out all of my paints on here. I don't have very many colors, but you would be amazed at how many colors I can make with just these 8 colors that I have on my palette right here. And so, to begin with, I will mix up the sky colors and show you about how it is. Okay, in skies, I'm going to pull this back up again. If you can see, usually it's darker at the top and it's lighter as it goes down towards the horizon. Of course, this one is especially light because it does have clouds there. But we're going to start out with a blue that's mixed with a little bit more ultramarine blue because it's a cooler blue, and it's going to get to be a warmer blue and lighter blue as it goes down. And then we will also put our clouds on top. I also like to use something called glazing liquid, which I'll pull out in just a few minutes too when we do the clouds. So, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to mix up a little bit of my blue, and it takes a little bit of practice just to get the blues just right. If you can see this, it only takes just, what I say is just like a dot of blue, maybe just a little dot of that blue like that. See how intense this blue is? And just a tiny little dot of this blue. This is how I start, just to see how much it's going to take, because look, even just that was in my brush already created a light blue. So it gets very dark quickly. And so you don't want to mix all of these colors into your white to begin with, because then you're going to waste an awful lot of paint. So I tend to like this sky a little bit warmer than on the cooler side. And I'm going to go ahead and start applying the paint. And this is just the first layer. Oftentimes it takes 2 or 3 layers of paint to get it just right on your skies. But since this is a smaller painting, it may not take quite as long. So I'm starting at the top. I usually, since I'm right-handed, I start at the top corner, and I try to come all the way out to the edge so that there won't be any toned canvas peeking through. And I'm slightly coming over where I had drawn the shape of the cloud. Now this is a little bit warmer than I want, so I'm going to mix in just a little bit more ultramarine blue. And I'm coming down into this cloud a little bit right in here. And like I said, it's not perfectly blended at first. Plus, I can come out to the edge on the clouds and make it look soft and wispy, kind of cotton candy-like as I go along. And the important thing is just to get the paint on the brush and start painting, and then you can make all of your adjustments as you go along. Some people in one of my in-person classes started this week, and so we're going to be finishing it up in person tonight. I really have a great group of students, and I love teaching. So if you ever want me to come to your town, let me know, and I'm glad to do that. And I'm not using like really hard, solid strokes. I'm just kind of outlining where the cloud is so that I don't lose the shape. And it's not exact, and so I can come back over it with the edge, with the paint on the edge. Well, that's a little bit lighter, so I'm going to stick a little bit more white in this area. And it's not a race. We can just take our time and relax doing this. And then as it dries a little bit darker, you can go back and lighten it up where it needs to be lightened. I'm going to put some of this in here and over here. A little bit in this part under this cloud. Maybe just put some in this corner so that when the cloud overlaps, I will have some blue there. Okay, there's some blue, and that might not be exactly like we want, but we can go ahead and start putting in the cloud shapes, and then we can shade the clouds with possibly a little bit of pinks and purples. It does have some yellowish colors showing through, so I think that some of the toned area will show through on that. And so I'm just gonna start out with a little bit of white and then see what I need to do. I love these filbert brushes for clouds. You can just really make the prettiest soft shapes with it. And I can see that this white is going to be a little bit too bright. And so, okay, so I'm just going to put a hint of this yellow oxide that was on the tone, just a hint of it in there. And then I also have my two reds on here, the quinacridone magenta and the pyrrole red. There's some burnt sienna as well. Okay, these are very, very strong colors, but sometimes clouds have pinks in them. So I might take a little bit of this and mix into it so that, and then a little tiny bit of the blue. So we're going to have sort of a lavender shadowing on here. Clouds are one of my favorite things to do. I just love clouds for landscapes. So already you can see that there's a little bit more shading in this. It's not stark white, but it still could use a little bit more shading. So I will add a little bit right now, but I don't want to add too much because I can always go back on top and add some. And I see a little bit of blue in here, like in there. So I can go back and soften that later. Remember, we're just blocking in color at this point. And if you're following along with me, you can just stop this as you go and do your own thing and then pick up. That's what I like about videos so much. And so that's what I hope as my channel grows, that you'll be able to paint right along with me. And nothing makes me happier than to see people learning something and enjoying it. And yours does not have to look exactly like mine. You can create your own style. Some people like palette knives to work with instead of brushes, and they like a thicker type of paint. My paint is a variety of paint, as you can see. I sometimes like what's called heavy body from the tube, but I also have a good variety of fluid acrylics. I like Liquitex Professional and Golden Professional paints. And the reason I like the professional grade is that they seem to have more vibrant colors, and I think you get some better results. So you may want to play around with that if you're not getting the results you want from just student grade paints. You may want to try a little bit more. They cost a little bit more, but there's a good reason for it. There's better pigment, there's better binders in it, and sometimes the paintings feel like they're just painting themselves with good paint. It will last longer. I think they're more archival. So that is my suggestion for today. Use very good paints, the best ones that you can. I have been in the position before where I could not afford good paints. But then when I finally did, oh my goodness, it really, really makes a huge, huge difference. Here, I'm gonna fill in these clouds a little bit more, and probably while you're doing this too, you need to keep asking yourself, what is the focal point, and what's the lightest light even on this cloud? What are the lightest lights, and where is the light source? Because it will give your clouds more dimension if you can see where the light is hitting them and where the shadows are. It will also help the perspective of your painting if you can see where the light areas are and where the darker areas are. So that's what I'm constantly doing the whole time, is trying to figure out where the lightest lights are and where the darkest darks. I'm just filling in over the toned canvas right now. People always ask, well, why do you tone the canvas if you're covering it back up? But I promise you it makes a difference. You're not seeing little pieces of white canvas showing through, or whatever canvas color you have. It helps you to be able to see where the lightest lights are and the darkest darks. And it gives your painting a mood. I mean, this just feels like a peaceful pastoral painting with a little bit of this yellow here. You can just feel the day that it was a nice, sunny, pleasant day out. And it's just really, it feels peaceful. And some people love to have red tone canvases, and that gives your painting a whole different energy, which I also love. It just depends on what you're in the mood to do that day. And if you're doing a series of paintings, sometimes it helps to have them kind of similar. And so, so maybe toning all of your canvases the same color for a particular series, even though they're different subjects, will bring all of your paintings together to look like they belong together as a grouping. So I see a little bit of light here and there on the tops. I think this was probably around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't remember exactly. It was when I was on a trip to North Carolina one time. And this was near an old country store. It was in the back of it. That's why you see the power lines coming across back there. But it was such a pretty view from the parking lot. I just couldn't resist. I just love the sound of the brush on the canvas too. It's so peaceful to me. And I'm doing these wispy cotton candy clouds. I'm going to stop this right here and go find my glazing liquid. This is the glazing liquid that I was just talking about. And what I do is I just put a little bit on my palette right over here, and I'll dip my brush into it. And then if I want to add a little bit to my paint, it just makes it a little bit more transparent. And sometimes it slows down the drying time. So there's gloss, there's satin. I like both of them actually. And I don't mind my paintings at the end being glossy. If that bothers you, you can use the satin. It's not so glossy, and then you can put a varnish on your painting that is more matte or more satin or glossy, or not at all. But if you use a gloss glazing liquid, and the rest of your paint isn't very glossy, you can see little patches of shine everywhere. That doesn't bother some people, but I like it to be a little bit more uniform. And so just letting you know about that. So I'm just seeing the final touches on this on the sky. And I might have to do even another video on this tomorrow. Save the rest for next time, because the clouds are taking me a little bit longer. And like I said, I have a class tonight, so I'm going to go do that. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit more of the pink in here, and I think that we're going to call the sky almost done until we do the rest of the painting, and then we'll go back as usual and just see what we need to highlight some more once everything else is painted. Put some of this pink in here. I think it helps. I'm working flat, but you can certainly work on an easel, and it really helps to step back and see what you're doing, particularly with large paintings. Okay, put a little bit of this up here. And I'm going to put a little bit, tiny bit more blue toward the horizon. Whoops, that's not quite blue enough. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to do for now. And I guess there's going to be a part 3 in this painting, so I will put that up soon. Thank you.